च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So as usual we will chant the original verses of the Gita, starting with Partha Pratipoditam, which you all know. And we will start the Gita chanting from verse number 13, second chapter, till verse number 21. Om Pathaya Pratiboditam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Amba Tvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshini. So, Shri Bhagavan Vacha from verse number 13, Dehinosmin Yata Dehi. Together please. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Dehinosmin Yatha Dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara Tatha Dehantara Prapti Dhirastatra Namuyati Matra Sparsha Sukaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agama Payino Nitya Stanti Tikshasva Bharata Yam Hina Vyathayantyete Purusham Purushashabha Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Somritatvaya Kalpate Nasato Vidyate Bhavo Nabhavo Vidyate Sataha Ubhayorapi Drishtonta Stanayostattvadarshibhi Avinashi tu tatvidhi Yena sarvamidam tatam Vinashamabhyayasyasya Nakaschit kartumarhati Antavanta ime deha Nityasyokta sharirinaha Anashino prameyasya Tasmad yudhyasva bharata Yainam veti hantaram Yaschainam manyate hatam Ubhauto na vijanito Nayam hanti na hanyati Na jayate mriyate va kadachin Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano Na hanyate hanyamane sharire Veda vinashinam nityam Yae namajamavyayam Katham sa purusha partha Kam ghatayanti hantikam. So, we have already seen that Shri Krishna describes the eternal Sat, one whose absence is not possible, and what it is like. Avinashi tu tat vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. Know that by which all this is pervaded to be surely imperishable. Nothing can bring about the destruction of the immutable. Then he compares the body to the self. Antavanta ime deha nityasya ukta sharirinaha. The eternal, imperishable and incomprehensible self dwells or resides in a body. So these bodies have an end, but not the self. Then he negates all kinds of modifications in the self. The verse we studied last time. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit na ayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. So the self na jayate, it is not born, va, and it does not mriyate, means die. Why is the self not born? Because only something which was not there earlier can be born. So self is always there, it was never non-existent. And since it is eternal, it is new even in the past. So I am this one being uniform throughout does not either decay or grow. So it is devoid of all transformations. Therefore, na hanyate, it is not killed when hanyate hanyamane sharira, when the body is killed. So body may be killed but not the self. Now, since he has told that the body may be killed but not the self, and he has to show the reason for its not being killed. So he has told that because it is eternal, it cannot be killed. But he has also told that self does not kill in the verse we will study. How it does not kill, this is to be shown. So everything has to be given a reason. If you say something, if you put forward some principle, you have to give a reason for that. So whatever Sri Krishna has told, whatever he proposes, he tells the reason. Why is the self not born? Why it cannot die? Now we will see, he says, why exactly, how exactly the self is never killed, nor can it cause to kill. So that is the subject of discussion today. So please repeat after me, because this verse we will discuss in detail today. Veda vinashinam nityam
Veda vinashinam nityam
ya enam ajamavyayam
yatenam ajamavyayam
katham sa purusha partha
katham sa purusha partha
kam ghatayati hantikam.
kam vatayati hantikam.
So Veda means to know. He who knows, ya Veda, what? Avinashinam, indestructible, and Nityam, and Ajam Avyayam. So these are all descriptions of the self. One who knows the self. How? As Avinashinam, Nityam, Avyayam. So we'll see what does this mean. Katham sa Purusha, one who knows like this, how can that Purusha Ghatayati Hantikam. So this is this is how he is explaining. One who knows the self as Avinashinam, Nityam, Ajam, Avyayam. These four things have been given. How can he kill the self or cause the self to be killed? So Avinashinam means indestructible. We have already seen why it is indestructible, because it is avyayam, undecaying. Undecaying means one that does not decrease or either loses some part or attribute, which is not subject to destruction, and it is ajam. Ajam means is not never born, it is birthless, and it is nityam, means it is eternal. So he who knows this one under discussion, his own self, which is devoid of all these transformations, only one who knows, that person, Sapurusha, Kam Hanti, whom does he kill? And Katham Hanti, how does he kill? So this is what has been said. One who knows the self like this does not kill anyone. First, he does not kill anyone, nor does he kill in any way. Because you may not kill, but you may cause it to be killed. So neither the self kills anyone, nor does he kills in any way. But only one who knows the self like this, not people like us. And kam ghatayati, whom does he cause to be killed? How does he cause anyone to be killed? So meaning is he does not get anyone killed, he does not cause anyone to be killed in any way, because he knows that there is no agentship at all. The self is not associated with any karma. So killing here, as we have told last time, killing here does not mean only kill. Because the discussion is there about the war, that's why. What is actually conveyed is the self is neither the agent of action nor the enjoyer of the results of action. If you do something, then you will get the result. But if you don't do anything, how will you get the result? So the thing which has been told is the highest truth, that self has no connection with action. So if it does not act, it is also completely unrelated to the fruits of the action. If I do something good, I will get good result. If I do something bad, I will get bad result. But if I don't do anything, what will I get? So the person who knows the self to be like this, indestructible, eternal, unborn and unchanging, only he is free from all kinds of bondage of karma. Because he only realizes the self as it really is, not others. So we cannot go and kill somebody and think the self does not kill. Because we don't know the self as it is. We are thinking the body to be self. So till we take the body and mind to be the self, we are responsible for our actions. But the person who has attained self-knowledge is completely free from all these things. So, he does not kill, he does not cause to be killed. These correspond to two questions. Who is there to kill and who is there to make someone kill? Now these two questions, who is there to kill? The first question pertains to the individual soul, Jivatman. And who is there to make someone kill pertains to God, Paramatma. We will see all this. So these both are wrong, killing or causing to be killed. Because these spring from the ignorance about the self. So regarding the Jivatman, individual self, the confusion is what? I do something. Regarding Paramatman, the confusion is he makes us do something. So people say God is making everybody do something, we are not responsible. But Paramatman is not different from the self. We are also part and parcel of the same self. They are not two selves, one for us and one for Paramatman. Both are the self. So many philosophers, they may accept that the jiva does nothing, but if they believe that the world is real, they conclude then God must be the one who makes everything happen. And some people also blame God for everything. So God for them is like a waste paper basket. All good actions I do and everything bad, undesirable events, they are dumped to God. So that story is there of the Indra. Indra was, that you must be knowing that story of the Indra, and don't know? Anyway, we'll see later. So these people will say, we produced more grain in the green revolution, we increased milk production in the white revolution, we built roads, railways, technology, planes, airplanes. But drought, flood, that is God's doing. Flood will wash away all the roads, God is responsible. So everything good we are doing, everything bad God is doing. So Shri Krishna says both these notions are wrong. Neither does the jiva act, jiva means individual self, neither does jiva act, nor God makes him act. So ideas of doing or making do simply does not arise. Suppose you are seeing a movie, a thief is appearing to steal, but he actually does not steal. He is just acting. Actually, nothing is happening. So, in the same way, when we think that the jiva is acting and God is causing action, actually, the real self, which is the witnessing self, remains exactly as it is. He has no connection with action at all. That is why Sri Krishna says not merely the self does not kill, he also adds the self does not cause any killing. That is the thing. So he says any idea of the self being associated with action is due to ignorance. So, this hanti, hanyate, all these are coming, the words. So it is hanti, hanyate, all comes from the Sanskrit root han, means to kill, but it also means to act. For example, in Hindi you say mar diya. Mar diya means to kill. But mar can also mean to perform an action. How? मैं गप मार रहा था. So you are doing something, it is an action. I was engaged in gossiping. So here also han is used in both senses. The self neither acts nor causes action. Causing action is also an act, is it not? So then the question will come, then why is Shri Krishna telling Arjuna to fight? If he is telling Arjuna to fight, he is causing him to act. But to fight, when Shri Krishna says, it is not a divine command forcing Arjuna to act. It is simply permission to perform the action which has naturally come to him. That is the thing. So killing sense of the han root applies specifically to Arjuna's situation now in the battlefield, while the general sense of action applies universally to all of us. So here the meaning is action. Doing or causing anything have to be done with the help of some instrument. Any action, you need an instrument. So Bhagavan says, how? Kam ghātayati, katham ghātayati. Means by what instrument will the self act? So an ordinary person will say, suppose he says, I will open a shop, I will open a factory. So first question will come, how will you open it? Do you have the money? In other words, action is possible only when there are some instruments. Otherwise it is not possible. So in our case, what are the instruments? All these hand, feet, etc. with which we act. Legs we walk, speech we talk, and so on. But here, the wise person, wise means here one who has attained the supreme knowledge. He realizes that I am nothing perishable. I am not the body. I am the imperishable instruments, Atman. So since all instruments are perishable, how can the imperishable self have any connection with them? That is the thing. So only one who has realized he has no connection with the body, actually realized, not just read. We are just reading. Realization is completely something different. So one who knows that there is no connection between him and anything in the universe, only he can realize this truth. So this second chapter is Sankhya Yoga, is the yoga of knowledge. The highest knowledge is given here. So to illustrate this principle, a humorous story is told. Once some earthworms went to the snake family, and said, see, earthworms are also crawling, snakes are also crawling. So we have two communities, earthworms and snakes. So there should be intermarriage between our communities, no discrimination. You are also crawling, I am also crawling. So now those earthworms are of a very low category. So marriage cannot be done that way. So snakes thought, if I tell them directly, you fellows, lower species, how can we marry any of you? So they will be hurt, poor fellows. So the snake thought a wonderful method, how to avoid the marriage. So elder snakes replied, that is okay, wonderful thing, we have no discrimination of high and low, we are ready for marriage. But according to our tradition, we marry only in the month of, that in the this Hindi it is called Jyeshtha. Jyeshtha is the hottest month. Now they knew that earthworms actually cannot survive in that heat. If the earthworms are not there in that heat, marriage, how will it take place? So here the impossibility lies, snakes wanted to say, impossibility lies not in intention. Our intention is good, but in nature. How can there be marriage between earthworm and a snake? The very nature is different. In the same way, the self is imperishable, while the senses, mind, intellect, organs are perishable. So between two opposite entities, how can there be any relation? If the relation seems to be there, it is unreal. If we think there is relation, we are deluded. So any relation can exist only between two entities which are similar, not between two completely different kinds of entities. So earthworms may be satisfied by the illusion that the marriage will happen in Jyeshtha, but in reality they will not survive. So too the apparent relation between the self and the non-self is only due to delusion. There can be no other cause. So katham ghateti hantikam. Katham means how. How can the self act? That is what Krishna is telling. This relation is impossible. Now, two words are used here. One is indestructible. and the other is eternal. Avinashinam said no, that which cannot be destroyed. But also it is said Nityam, it is eternal. Now we will think that what is indestructible is Nityam. So why the two mean the same? If something cannot be destroyed, it is Nityam. But no. Whenever he uses any word, you have to know there is a difference. So indestructible and eternal seem the same, but there is a very subtle difference. First, indestructible. So, when we say indestructible, we have to first see whether only the something which is real can be indestructible, or even something which is unreal can be indestructible. This is a very interesting question. We say something is destroyed only if it existed at some time, but now it is not there. That means destruction. My body is here today, tomorrow it will be gone. This house is here today, it will be gone. So only something which existed at some time can be destroyed. But suppose you are seeing a snake in a rope. What will you say? There was a snake in a rope, it has died now. Can we say that? Because the snake was never there. Snake never existed in this rope. Nasato vidyate bhava. Asata bhava na vidyate. Unreal can never exist at any time. So how can something which never existed be destroyed? Could you follow? Something which never existed at any point of time, where is the question of its destruction? If you are seeing water in a mirage, in a desert, can that water be destroyed? It never existed. So we see here, even something which is unreal can never be destroyed. That is also indestructible. So if God simply had said, Krishna simply, if he had said, self is indestructible, then the self could also be unreal. Because that which is unreal, there is no question of destruction. But self is the exact opposite. It is not that it began to exist at some time and continues to exist. Rather, it always exists. It can never be negated. No one can destroy it, obstruct it. So all the characteristics of the self would disappear in its absence. But Sri Krishna will later say, Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, etc. Weapons cannot cut, water cannot wet, fire cannot burn, wind cannot dry. So all these things can only be said of something which is always existing. So we see that both the unreal and the real are actually indestructible. So if Bhagavan had simply said Avinashinam, indestructible, then both real and unreal would pertain to them both. But self is not unreal. So only if he says indestructible, it will not do. Some other examples also can be said. Suppose there is no pot here. We can see there is no pot. Ghatam nasti. So there is absence of a pot. Now, can you cut the absence of a pot with a sword? Can you wet it with water? Can you burn it with fire? So then the absence of the pot would also be the self there. But that is not the self. Our shadow falls when we walk in the sunlight. Can you wet the shadow with water? Can you burn the shadow? No. So if only God had said these things, cannot wet, cannot, then that would pertain to unreal things also. So if the self were merely indestructible, in the sense of not destroyed, then the self could be like the shadow also. Therefore, he says, also he adds, Nitya. Shadow is not Nitya. Absence of a pot is not Nitya. If you keep a pot there, the absence will go. Is it not? So the self is not merely not destroyed, but it is also ever existent. I understand this will be difficult to understand because these are very, very deep philosophical. Second chapter is very, very philosophical. It is giving the highest truth. So naturally, we are not accustomed to this type of thinking. But since these are explained in a very simple way, once we hear again, we can understand better. And what he says, how he describes Aja. Aja means not born. Otherwise, what will you say? A chair has come. Means there was no chair before. It has been made now. It was not there before. But that does not pertain to the self. Because the self was never absent at all. And we have discussed all these 6 modifications, Jayate, Aste, Vardate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Mriyate, etc. Shad Bhava Vikara, 6 modifications. They never exist in the self because it is never born. The first is Jayate. It must be born, but self is never born. So when we hear eternal, we automatically think it must have had a beginning. So people will ask, Sanatana Dharma, Hindu Dharma, when did it begin? But if you ask them what is the meaning of Sanatana? Sanatana means eternal. If something is eternal, how could it have been born at any time? It was always there. Because Sanatana Dharma means what? The Dharma based on the Vedas. And the Vedas were never created because Vedas is just another name for knowledge. Knowledge always exists. So, again, that's why Shri Krishna says Aja, unborn, to remove that doubt also. That you may think the self was born, but now it will never be destroyed, so it is eternal. He says it was never born because it was always there. So what does he say? The self is indestructible and eternal. And when we perform action, it can only be done through some instrument. Instrument is always perishable. So there can be no connection between the perishable and the imperishable. That is the thing. Eyes, ears, minds, mind is also an instrument. And all of them, if we work, after some time they will get tired. Then when we have become too tired, we go to sleep. But in deep sleep also, we experience only one thing. Here there is nothing. And I am in great bliss. Not in dream, because in dream the instrument is acting. In dream we find joy, but we also suffer. Depends on what kind of dream is there. But in deep sleep, there is only one feeling. Nothing is there except bliss. The self knows, but there even the ego is not there. Even the ego is a modification of the mind. Mind becomes tired. When we work for continuously, doesn't the mind become tired? But actually the real self is not affected. In waking, dream or deep sleep, nothing happens to the self. Self never says. Self is the eternal knower. It never says, I have been knowing since time began, now I am tired. Let me rest for a few days. So the self is imperishable. Instruments are subject to decay. So there can be no connection between the two. So first Bhagavan says there is no instrument by which the self can either act or make somebody act. Paramatman, God, also has no instrument by which he can make others act. All the defects in the argument which applies to the individual soul also applies to God, because the self is same in both. So, meaning is, how can the self perform any action and how can it cause any action? It cannot. That is the thing. So, here again we can give a nice example. Wherever something is not actually accomplished, yet appears to be accomplished, when something is not done, but when we think we do, it is an illusion. This is the meaning here. And the more one believes in an illusion, the stronger it becomes. If something you keep on telling to yourself, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, even if it is false, you will start believing it. All these advertisements, actually what are they? This is the psychology. They will keep telling you, if you don't get this, your life is worthless. If you don't get this car, if you don't get this phone, you are finished. Now 10 times we are seeing, 20 times we are seeing. So this illusion starts entering the brain. And we believe it is true. Now go and get that. That is the thing. But it is just something which has been created in our mind. It is not true at all. So, the more you think about what is not true, the more it will appear to be true to you. Slowly, slowly. One day it will not happen. So how is it illustrated? One day there was a grain seller. Poor man, selling grains. One day he went to watch there was a procession. King was coming. So everybody goes to the king's procession, no? Seeing. So he went to watch the king's procession. And how to get a better view? So much crowd is there, so he climbed a tall tree. Tree was high, so he had a very nice view of the king, everything, king, queen, everything. So he saw everything. King was entering a garden, but he's seeing everything because he's on top, sitting on top. So he saw in a garden a canopy was set up immediately. All the attendants were there. So king and queen were there. Then they sent away all the attendants, and king and queen were laughing, joking together. People were singing, etc. for the king. So king and queen were very amiable. The grain seller's wife, unfortunately, was a harsh, sharp-tongued woman. But he heard the queens were speaking so softly. Big contrast. So a thought arose in his mind, if I could become king, I would also have all these things. So sitting there, listening to this music, etc., his mind became completely absorbed. 2 or 3 hours went like that. But he's still under that. So when the king finally left, he climbed down, went to his shop. But he's still thinking about that fantasy. And he's still thinking, if only I could become king someday and enjoy everything, all those music, etc. My queen would be so nice. What a joy it would be. Then thinking like this, he became so absorbed, he lost awareness of the surrounding. He's sitting in his shop, but mentally he has gone to the royal garden. So customer came and asked him for some grain, but he did not even hear. He is there. Then customer called louder, still no response. Then third time the customer shouted so loudly that the grain seller's wife came. She heard that shouting and gave a nice kick to that poor fellow. A sleeping fellow, this customer is there. Then he gained a little awareness. But even then that intoxication of the fantasy had not left him. So half dazed he said, I am the king. Where are my queens? Then his wife scolded him even more. Then he woke up, oh, I am, what I was. All this is gone. So just as this grain seller became a king, how? Actually nothing had happened. It was just his imagination. It had no fact, no basis at all. Similarly, what are we doing? We are constantly thinking of worldly objects. Like the grain seller was constantly thinking of the king. We are constantly thinking of worldly objects. And in our mind, imagining, if I get this, I will be happy. If I get that, I will be happy. So, this terrible intoxication has taken a complete hold of us. And the problem is, there is no one to wake us up. All the persons surrounding us are also intoxicated. So who will wake who? That is the conversation which is going on. Is it not? What have you got? What have I got? What we are going to get? Any worldly activity, that is what is happening. So, because we have completely immersed ourselves in this illusion, someday we will get something. That's why we have self-hypnotized ourselves. We have hypnotized ourselves. Because we are longing for these worldly objects, and only the individual self can get the worldly object. So we are also thinking ourselves to be a limited individual. I am this mind and body. And we have bound ourselves. See this, see that, go to this cruise, go to Alaska cruise, go to European cruise. What is there? Hundreds of people have gone. You have also gone maybe 5 times. What did you get in the end? Nothing. You were as before. When you returned home, what was there with you? Nothing was there. Nothing was left. If a person has achieved everything, when he cannot see, when he cannot hear, when he is walking with a stick, he may have been the king of the whole world. What will remain with him then? Nothing. So it was all worthless. But we have been so hypnotized, we have slipped from our true nature. From our true nature as the infinite Brahma, and slipped into this hell. We have become completely absorbed in it. Simply seeing something with the eyes would not have harmed us. But we have also thinking, I am the one who sees. See, if I see with a telescope, then I know I and the telescope are separate. But here what we are thinking, it is I who am seeing, completely identified. Suppose we are in deep sleep, suppose just someone taps us we are waking up. So when we wake up, if we just reflect, in deep sleep I was not seeing or hearing anything. Then who am I really? Why in that state I was not hearing or sleeping anything, hearing or seeing anything? So this is called vichara. So when we do this kind of discrimination, slowly this conditioning loses. The harm which we are doing, we have to go the opposite way. But naturally nobody wants to do like that. Who has the time and who has that kind of inclination? So the Gita is only for those in whom that inclination has developed, not for everybody. We are giving only importance to one state, that is the waking state. That is all. Other things we are just taking for granted. But those states are as real as the waking state. How can you give importance to only one state and disregard the other states? But we don't bother to think also. So constantly brooding over this waking state, although we experience dream and deep sleep, we don't give them any importance. Out of attachment, we just think the waking state is all that is. All the objects we have enjoyed in dream, where have they gone? Here also, whatever you have enjoyed throughout your life, where has it gone? Is any 1% of that left? Nothing is left because they were never there. So, this wife of the roasted grain seller is like the scriptures, like the Vedas. It is trying to awaken us. That awaken from your delusion. So naturally we are in such deep sleep that immediately if they tell us of the real nature, like the Gita is telling, nothing will go into our head. We are just hearing, but nothing will go because we are not fit for that. So the Vedas take us slowly. What will they say? First the karma kanda is there. They will say, you want to have pleasure, you do this sacrifice. Do the Jyotishtoma sacrifice. You will go to heaven. You will have ice cream, pizza, anything without having diabetes. So what happens then? The jiva does not become free because knowledge has not been given to them, because he is not fit to receive that knowledge. But the first thing which happens, the first step is there. What is the first step? I am not merely this body. Even when the body dies, I will be there. I will go to heaven. I will enjoy everything. So first knot, when 100,000 knots are there, first knot has become a little loose. At least he will realize that the body will not accompany me when I die. So at least I am not the body. I am not the hand, feet, etc. Something will remain when the body dies. So once this is firmly understood, then the Vedas will give them the kick which the wife gave. The kick of dispassion. Then it will go further. Why are you foolishly trying to run for the pleasures of the world? They are not truly yours. Perishable things do not belong to you. It can never belong to you. First of all, it had told, okay, you go there and have a nice time. But after the first stage is over, then they will even tell all these heavenly pleasures. They don't belong to you. So slowly, they take us towards the supreme goal. Because in the very beginning, our mind is not ready to understand the highest truth. So Vedas slowly tell us that ultimately the aim is to realize what? You are different from everything. You are only the witness. Neither seer nor thinker, nor knower in the empirical sense. You are consciousness alone. Reflect on the other states also. Reflect on the deep sleep. Reflect on the dream. Then you will realize the truth. Because if you don't reflect on the other states, the waking state will seem to be completely real to you. Only when you see that all these are changing, so how can only waking state be real? The Maya, what is known as Maya, has created everything, all these states. So when we hear these teachings for a short time, we will feel yes, it is true. But after some time, we will become the same people. During reflection, the knowledge may be just a little 1% we will see, but afterwards it will disappear. Why? Because all the other time we are under delusion. And we like that. That is the main problem. We enjoy that. Without that, life will be meaningless. So we are seeing the world not as it is. Here we have got this spectacle, no? So this spectacle of desires is there. And we are seeing the world through this spectacle of desire. And behind that is our deep impressions. That is why we don't see the world as it really is. We see a world which has been manufactured by us. Every man manufactures his own world. If the world was a good place, then nobody would be crying, nobody would be sad. If the world was a bad place, nobody would be happy. But some people are happy, some people are sad. Each has manufactured his own world. That is the thing. If someone is desireless, then he knows the world as it is. Not people like us. We are full of desires. And these desires are also of two kinds. One is so-called pure desire. Although every desire is to be given up in the end. But one kind of desire is there which will lead us to God. One kind of desire is there which will lead us away from God. So desire to lead a spiritual life, desire to be truthful, etc. All these are pure desires. But the desire to get this, that, everything, those are called impure desires. So we are seeing the world through the mind and the ego. Actually, those are not two different things. Mind is just a modification. The ego is only the modification of the mind. And as long as any impure desire remains in the mind, if we cling to that impurity, there is no chance of any spiritual progress. Because we are like that. If you go and embrace a tiger, who will save you? You are going to commit suicide. You want to commit suicide. Go. Who can stop you? First is to get the desire to get rid of this false conviction. Then only true conviction can arise. So 3 stages are there. First stage is we have wrong conviction. The thing is like this, but the thing actually is completely opposite. So first is what? We are completely immersed in ignorance. Even the question does not arise. Then when we grow a little, a doubt arises. We begin to wonder, is this really true? Am I really getting any happiness here? So then we start to think, maybe, but maybe not. At first we are certain that this is a snake, not a rope. Then we begin to think, if it was a snake, in 1 hour it would have moved. It is not moving. So what it is? And finally, we gain true knowledge. So these are the 3 steps. Suppose we are walking on a road. On the road there are 20 things. 100 things we see. But do we try to verify each one of them? No. Only if there is a doubt we have to verify. Google will tell us police ahead. Doubt comes up. Oh, police, immediately reduce the speed. It may be there, it may not be there, but you cannot take a chance. But if Google does not say anything, no problem. You ride at over speed and no problem at all. So only when there is a doubt, we ask for verification. The first stage is doubt. And this leads to the desire to know. And this desire can only arise if there is doubt in the beginning. Blinded people, how can there be any desire? Those who cannot see anything. So, wrong conviction, then doubt, then right conviction. After right conviction arises, one is convinced there is a soul, there is God, this is not everything. Then we have to cultivate that, protect that, let it sink into the mind. Protect the mind from everything which tells you the false thing. Not go and sit before the television and see all kinds of nonsense. Then you are letting those things again enter your mind. What use it will be? So repeatedly bringing the true conviction in the mind. That is called, when you say Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, that is called Manan. You have heard, you believe, but continue to reflect on that. Leave other things as far as possible. Whenever a wrong impression arises, we must immediately try to give it up with reasoning. That is the thing. But for people like us, we don't have that willpower. Very few, maybe 1 in 10 million is guided by reason. We are guided by emotion. So, that is why Sri Ramakrishna says, the path for the general, normal means ordinary human being is what? First, we have to cultivate love for the ideal. And that love a human being can only love another human being. Until we are identified with the body, we can only think God as a human being. That is the path. So all this we are discussing, it is true, but for us it is all academic. We have not yet reached the stage in which we can put this into practice. So anyway, coming back to this, ya enam Veda, one who knows the self like this, he should strengthen that knowledge through repeated impressions. First there is the wrong conviction, I am the body. Then the doubt arises, perhaps I am not the body. The soul says that after death I will go here, after death I will go there. So perhaps I am not the body. Then the desire comes to know, then what is my real nature? And when the desire comes, we strengthen it slowly, keep on reflecting, then go into deep meditation. Then someday by God's grace, we actually realize. And when that knowledge becomes firm, then we realize the truth of this, that the self can never have any connection with any kind of actions. So God is telling Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna what? Reflect on this again and again. Gyaneshwari, you must have heard of the commentary on the Gita, Sant Gyaneshwar. So he gives wonderful similes as we know. So he says about this verse, what is seen in a dream is considered real and correct only within the dream. But when a person wakes up, not even a trace remains of those dream objects. And when we go to dream, not even a trace remains of everything in the waking state. How can you say the waking state is true? Just as a weapon swung at a person's shadow never injures the actual person. Just as when a water-filled pot overturns, if there was a reflection of suppose the sun in that water-filled, suppose the pot is overturned, the water is spilled. But can that destroy the real sun? Only the reflection is gone. Sun is as it was. Same thing here also. When the body perishes, nothing happens to the self. Body is just something which has been superimposed. Whether it remains or goes, it does not matter. But who can actually realize, for whom does this become true? That the self has no connection with action. It never had any connection. It is not connected, now it will never be connected. Who can realize this? Ya enam Veda. Only one who has actually realized his true nature. So this is the famous passage from the Vivekananda Upanishad, very famous. If the self were to know that I am indeed this, then kim icchan kasya kamaya shariram anusanchare. This is a very famous passage of Vivekananda. So if a person knows I am asmi iti, I am this self, then kim icchan, desiring what? Kim icchan kasya kamaya, for sake of what enjoyment would you continue to suffer with the body? Why will you suffer? We are suffering because we want something of the body, from the body. If you want to eat an ice cream, then be prepared to check for blood sugar also. But you can give that up, you are safe. So here also, one who knows, I am asmi iti, I am indeed that Atman. Kim icchan kasya kamaya shariram anusanchare. He is free. When that ignorance is gone, superimposition is gone, then the attachments and aversions will also be gone, because those are all based on the superimposition. So I am the karta or bhokta, I am the doer and the enjoyer, that will also go. So what the verse is telling is this, that in case of the knower of the self, only this is true. One whose false identification is destroyed. When it is destroyed, then there is no ground for any desire, action or result. So Krishna says, dear Arjuna, you are now superimposing all this on your true nature. So you are thinking, I am fighting a war, I will kill. If I kill, I will get sin. So you cut it at the root. You realize your true nature. So all these false imaginations will automatically be destroyed. Then you realize you can never have any connection with any kind of action. Self is completely free. You are completely free. And this is the final thing. That is the final realization. Then later Bhagavan will say that even if he kills the whole world, he does not do anything.